Welcome, teachers, to this last part in our series on enhancing lessons with supplementary materials. Previously, we've considered reasons to use them. We've looked at three kinds that are really important and we can use over and over again: the whiteboard, puppets, and alphabet flashcards. Now we're going to look at additional things that we can bring into the lessons and use with our students to enhance engagement and promote learning. These things are props, realia, reward systems, and electronic devices. How can they be used? Let's begin with props and realia. Realia essentially refers to real things, real objects that we have in our home. So we may have real objects that we can use or various things we're going to use as props to aid in learning. Why can these help? Well, we see pictures here of various items, somewhat stimulating, but how much more interesting is it to actually not just show the picture of the woman holding out the apple, but actually hold out an apple for the student, get the student more involved? Apple. Would you like some? And encourage the student to take a bite of the apple. In aiding a student in understanding certain things about nature, sometimes it's useful to bring nature in to the house and to use these as realia. For example, in discussing rocks, if the story uses a pebble, how can we help the student distinguish a pebble from another kind of rock? Something else that we would call a rock. By actually having these items, I can manipulate the item and hold it up to the student, encourage them to pretend to manipulate it, and make distinctions between these two items. Other items that we see in the pictures, such as soap, we can use to demonstrate actions. Using the soap between the hands to actually wash the hands. Getting a water glass and actually pouring the water into something, if that is the word discussed in the lesson. Perhaps the lesson uses a word like puffy. In one lesson they have that word and they show a pillow, but how much more so is the student helped to understand if we have a puffy pillow that we could bring up to the screen, show its general use, and manipulate it with our hand movements to show its puffiness, encourage the student again to do the same thing. So with realia, we can manipulate the item and hold it up and show the student how it is used and more about what it looks like to understand more about these items. Sometimes we may have some things around the home that aren't necessarily an object like an apple, but that we can use to teach concepts, such as a piece of paper, teaching the concept of crumpling. Or how about making things from paper that can help to teach things, such as a paper doll. Now in this case I happen to find a wood version of something like a paper doll, and this can help me to teach facial parts, major parts of the body. It can help me to teach clothing, like the shirt and the pants, or shorts, if I'm making a distinction between shorts and pants, and types of shoes. I can also make these materials to help students see them and put them onto the paper doll for them to see the doll getting dressed in various ways. What other things may we have on hand to show a student? Well, that's one of the questions we want to ask ourselves every time we're preparing for a lesson. What kinds of things could help us to enhance the lesson in some way? If we put our bunny ears on, or we have a story on the 3 little pigs, could we make from paper plates or other things we have something to represent a face mask, earpieces, a nose piece for the 3 little pigs? These can really add to and enhance our lessons and make them more fun for the students as well. Notice how these simple items can enhance this lesson on Frog is hungry. If we have a stick that we can find outside, we can show it to the student. And this can really help them. Sometimes students have trouble with the concept of stick, so being able to show the item, helping them to distinguish where a stick comes from, being able to mention tree in there. And flower is also used in that lesson. So here we have a fake flower. In this case, I have a frog puppet. We can make a paper puppet or something like it and help to emphasize the concepts of the story by saying, having Frog pretend to eat the flower and then running away or spitting it out because he does not like it, pretending to eat the stick or have Frog eat the stick and then spitting it out. Children often like those kinds of things, and it really aids in their understanding of the story and what is happening. Other things that we can do is use reward systems. Now, the VC that we use, the virtual classroom, actually has a reward system, the stars that we give to students to encourage them to keep going forward and moving along. But sometimes students need additional rewards, especially for younger students. They like other kinds of reward systems. For very young students or very new students, a good reward system is the monkey and the bananas. So the students can identify the monkey in most cases, and every time they do well or get a couple of stars, they get to take a banana off. I usually like to share it with them, give the monkey a bite, and emphasize that they got a monkey for their banana, or they got a banana for their monkey. Each time they do well, they can add to that and have a collection of them by the end of the lesson. Another way to use the puppets is to create a zoo. So if, for example, I'm working with a student, I use the student's name and say, this will be Kitty's Zoo. Let's make a zoo. I take all the animals out. They get to choose one of the animals to put into their zoo each time they do well as a reward system. Girls often like the system of using my doll to dress the doll in various ways, and by the end of the lesson have it dressed the way they want it dressed. So they choose the color of pants every time they're getting a reward. They even get to choose the hair color, some accessories for the doll, some bags that they can give the doll and have her hang on her hands. They really seem to enjoy that and seeing what the complete outfit is by the end of the lesson. Male students often like more competitive activities such as racing the car around the track several times. So we want to think of ways that we can encourage the student to keep moving forward each class, some more interesting dynamic to make it more exciting for them. What ideas do you have? Let us know. We're also going to talk about portable devices that have internet access. Sometimes we can use these to help a student understand something a little bit more. We have one lesson, for example, that talks about lakes and rivers. Sometimes this is very hard for students to distinguish between the bodies of water. And so by showing additional pictures, we can click onto our device, do a quick image search, and find some more lakes and show students one or more pictures of other lakes to help them get a better sense of how to define that body of water. The same with rivers, the length of the water, and aid in their understanding a little bit more. We can also do that with, for example, this other set of pictures here with the tree. How do we help the student to understand that a woods or a forest is not just one tree? So if we are seeing our student needs extra assistance with that, we can show them. We have another example. Sometimes we can play videos if the lesson is talking about baseball, for example, and exactly how the game of baseball works. We may find an appropriate video to show the students to help them understand it. It's important to add a cautionary note here. We need to develop the habit of carefully examining any materials we use before we show them to students. Certainly any realia we have around the house, and certainly anything that we're getting off of the internet and our portable devices to show them. We would never want to use or present bad language, inappropriate materials that are perhaps sexually suggestive or show private body parts. We want to be very, very careful to make sure that that is not happening in our classes. So if we use an electronic device and we were very quickly trying to find something we're about to show it, we really need to stop first and look at it and say, what else is on this screen? If the sound is playing, what will be the sound coming out of it? What words or text are on the screen before I show this item to the student? One example of that, I was sharing the Itsy Bitsy Spider song with a student. A lesson had spider in it, and at the end of the lesson we had extra time, so we sang the song together, and I thought it would be more fun to play a children's video. Now, I took note that before I played that video there was an advertisement. Didn't feel that the student should see that or hear any of that, so I had to make sure that that advertisement was fully played and that I was at the point in the video that I wanted that student to actually see before I hit the play button and brought my device up to the screen for the student to watch it. So that's something we want to keep in mind with anything that we're doing. Also keep in mind that sometimes pictures are just not appropriate because of the student's age or emotional development. For example, a lion in the act of attacking another animal and eating it may unduly scare children. So we want to give careful consideration to that. We have so many tools at our access that we can use with our students to help them better understand things. Again, with anything that we're using, we want to consider the appropriateness of it, but we want to use these supplementary materials in the best ways possible to increase that feeling with the student that they're in the room with us. Students tend to show greater interest in topics, more motivation, and learning progress when supplementary materials are used. Whiteboards, puppets, and alphabet flashcards can regularly be included in our lessons, but we can also prepare and think about other props that we may have around the home, auxiliary reward systems that may inspire students more, and things that we could show them on our electronic devices to help them get over a hurdle of understanding and develop their understanding a little bit more. We also want to hear more of your ideas. So you've considered several things. We've seen several things in these 3 videos, and maybe it's helped you to come up with even more ideas, or you already had some other ideas of what we could do to enhance engagement and learning with supplementary materials. Please share your ideas, and thank you. Happy teaching.